Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Glenn Campbell, who's the creator of the BSI Method for personal branding. Glenn, welcome to the program.
Very great to be here, Mike. A delight.
Yep, I'm excited to talk with you because I think that you take a unique approach to personal branding because you really take it to a special, spectacular angle. So I want to hear all about that. But give us a little bit of background on your entrepreneurial journey up to this point in your career.
Well, it all began when I left school. I did 2 university undergraduate degrees. I did a commerce degree with a major in marketing, and thus the kind of brand strategy and communications approach. And then straight after that, I did a degree in psychology as well. And that started really a 25-year career in brand strategy and communications development, where I've worked across 4 continents. I'm currently based in Australia, but I've lived in America. I've lived in Chicago and New York, worked with 2 massive companies there, and been all over the US actually, and worked with many companies in the US, in Asia, in Europe, in the UK. I've worked as well and across the Asia Pacific region. And so 25 years of that. Inside that, 12 years as a chief executive of 4 major brand strategy companies. And then 15 years ago, Mike, I left corporate and started my own company, and I shifted out of the big end of town, really, to a focus on entrepreneurial business owners. And so to me, it's small to medium enterprise is what I was really focused on, because I believe they're the lifeblood of economies. And I want to help those leaders to get access to the opportunity to become vastly better leaders who run real brands, not pretend brands, not commodity trading companies, but real brands. And that will help to bolster the economy.
Yeah,
so
I think statistically that, the small business owner, the entrepreneur is the lifeblood of all economies. And I think it's really neat to see that, because these days, in the last couple of decades, it is so much faster and easier to launch and start a business because it's technology, it's virtual, it's you can do a side hustle so much easier than back in the old days. You'd have to quit your job and launch into a business with high expenses. So have you found that the mindset of entrepreneurs is kind of improving to the point where people feel like, okay, that's something I can try on the side, and then when it gets a little momentum, jump in with both feet?
I think there is, absolutely people are focusing on being more entrepreneurial. But the key challenge that I come across is that they have a tendency to focus on the what and how. And that's the operational stuff. So they go straight into developing a product, or they go straight into the systems and processes. And of course, that's not what people buy, Mike. People buy the why and the who. People pay the premium for the why and who. So, what I find is that leaders are kind of lacking a vision, a organizational or business vision that actually has a symbiosis with their own vision. And therein lies the challenge, Mike, because they don't have their own personal vision first. This is why my focus is on personal branding, or what I call discovering their true higher self, their true source self, their personal vision, purpose, and unique identity. And the vast majority of people on this planet don't have that. They can't tell you what that is. And, if you ask people, I ask leaders a lot. The first question I ask them is, tell me about yourself. And the first answer I get is their title, or what their role is, or what they're focusing on, their product. And so that's not their identity.
And, I think it's really interesting how you're laying that out, because I'm reading a book right now called Selling futures, not features. And the future, like in sales and NLP, and you want to be future pacing. So in sales, you want to talk about a transformation that you can bring to your prospect. And that transformation might be weight loss, weight gain, might be business success, it might be a lot of things, but you want to sell or paint the picture of that transformation. They don't necessarily care as much about the transportation, how they get there, until they really realize where you can take them. And then I think that translates down into what you're talking about with leaders, because it starts with yourself, that personal development. If we as entrepreneurs know our transformation, where we want to be, now we can move toward that with the transportation, the vehicle of whatever it is. And there's a lot of tools and tactics we can be doing. So talk a little bit about that. Does that fit into your, approach working with your clients?
Absolutely. You're right on the money there. In fact, I have done a master's of NLP and this whole idea of future pacing, which is what I call the envisioned future.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we're back to that word vision. And, you've probably read the book Good to Great, where Collins and Porras did that massive piece of research where they found, one of the big headlines for me coming out of reading that, research Bible, really, of how to be a successful company. What they found was that visionary companies outperformed all others by a factor of 15 and have done since 1926 on the stock exchange in the US. And so what's the key thing there? Well, the key thing is they're visionary companies.
Yeah.
Which means that, to be a true visionary company, you must be led by a visionary leader. And to be a visionary leader, you must know what your personal vision is, your envisioned future. So we are the whole kind of idea there, which has been proven by research, is that visionary companies outperform all others. And so regardless of whether you're a lounge room startup, an entrepreneur, you've got a few employees, if you've got 10,000, if you're lacking a vision, then you're basically operational. And if you're operational, you're what I call a commodity trader.
Yes.
And if you're a commodity trader, it's all about price, right?
Yep.
It's the race to the bottom.
Yep. Then you're not competing on value, you're competing on price. And I think that, think about, do you know in the financial markets way back in the day, the guy A.L. Williams?
Yep.
I heard a presentation just last month where this guy goes, I've been in financial services for decades. And the thing that got me into financial services was A.L. Williams and his crusade. He wasn't selling widgets or term life or insurance. He was selling a crusade, sell your whole life and buy term. That was what his, and invest the difference. And that's what his crusade was. Well, you can interject any type of crusade into that. So he was talking that in financial services, but what is that vision? What is that crusade? And I think that it really, my opinion is, when you know that about yourself, and then you can figure out that vision and transformation for the organization, and then marry those together and communicate that to your team and then to the corporation as a whole. Now everyone is moving in the right direction, right?
Well, this is what creates unstoppable, unbeatable, highly successful cultures, is that people belong to something that's greater than the what and how, or greater than, the operations. Stanford University and Cambridge collaborated on a major study. And what they found was that it was EQ that vastly outperformed IQ. And what they were getting at there, Mike, was, and this, the factor here is 85% EQ and 15% IQ for leaders. And what they were really talking about here is the, emotional intelligence. And we're back to vision again. And, because they linked emotional intelligence with the ability to say, what can we get people to emotionally belong to that is going to take them on a journey, what you call the crusade or the transformation, that is going to take them on a transformational journey that is much bigger than what we do. And so, when you take that back to this kind of idea of EQ, emotions, well, by the way, the other word for emotions is energy. And so the energy, I always, I've said many times that the leader that masters their energy masters everything. And that's the leader that masters the emotional quotient, the EQ of an organization, masters everything. And so how do you go about doing that? Well, you create something that people can energetically or emotionally connect to, which is the vision. And so, visionless companies, by the way, are everywhere. And visionary companies are rare, incredibly rare. I mean, if you sit down and look at any company and say, well, let me go onto their, website and find out what their true vision is, normally you can't find it. What you'll find is a business objective around a financial goal. And that's not a vision, is it?
It's not. And I think that it's sequentially, you need to have the overall goal. And then, like Stephen Covey taught, begin with the end in mind, which is the overall goal. And then what's the next goal? What's the goal before that to get you there? And then go before that. And then you work your way all the way back to where you are now. Well, doesn't that tie to vision? Because that overall goal is here's where we're headed. But yet that might be too.
The end is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
The end is the vision.
Yeah.
And then you start working back from that and say, well, what are the operational steps? And maybe the minor visions inside those operational steps that get us to the bigger vision. And so to me, this is really the game. The game is, it's a kind of an interesting combination, this discussion, Mike, because we're talking about visionary companies, but I'm really talking about visionary coaching-based leaders who first need to have their own personal vision, core purpose in life, their unique identity, very clear and very focused before anything else. And so, what I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they always say, look, I've got this great idea for my business and I need you to tell me how to take it to market. It's like, well, we need to step back and talk about what your personal vision is first. What's your core purpose in life? Because it's all about you. You're the leader. This is where the buck stops. It always has with leadership. The buck stops with the leader. And if the leader hasn't got clarity and focus of self first, and then has got a symbiotic relationship with himself or herself, and the clarity and focus of the organization, the symbiotic relationship between the two. This is what creates something that is incredibly powerful, because you've got a harmonious connection between the leader and the organization, which is visionary based, which changes the culture, which changes everything. Yep. And then what we do next, right? Then the next thing after that is to say, well, how does the product fit inside this now with symbiosis? How does the operations fit inside this with symbiosis, so that we've got something that is harmonious now? And of course, all those other things that we talk about, which is relevancy and value, are things that are just kind of checklist items. I mean, this is going to be relevant to a significant need in the marketplace, or a significant pain in the marketplace. Will it overcome that pain in a way that is unique, is distinctive? Well, yes, it answers all those questions. Great. Now let's go back to what the vision for this is, because you never sell anything other than the vision. I mean, that was a part of the story you were talking about before. You sell the vision. People pay a premium for the vision. They want to belong to a vision. They don't want to belong to an operational business that sells widgets and sprockets.
Yep. They want to be part of that bigger story.
Yeah, they want to be part of the big and this is the thing, the story. And, I'm a guy who's spent 30 years developing brands across this planet. And it really is all about the brand story, Mike. Yeah. And this is the narrative. There's another word for that, the narrative. What's the narrative of the leader? What's the narrative of the organization? Seth Godin kind of talks about it as saying, well, what are people like us doing around here? Which is the culture. And, I differ in my thinking about culture. I don't think culture is about doing. I think culture is about feeling. I think it's about energy. And, I'm kind of back to this energy thing. It's like, if the energy of the leader is clear and consistent, and there's a high vibrational energy, and now we're talking about quantum physics, really. Yep. If the leader has a high vibrational energy, then the energy of the organization is going to mirror that, because we know from quantum physics, the science of quantum physics, that like energy attracts like energy. It's irrefutable. And so, the leader's energy is kind of the beacon, the energetic beacon of the organization. If that leader has got a poor narrative, if that leader has got low EQ, if that leader is confused, fearful, uncertain, angry, frustrated, disappointed, then this is what the organization is going to be as well. They're going to mirror the leader. Because everybody looks to the leader. I mean, you've read the works of Dr. Daniel Goleman. Emotional Intelligence is one of his books, Primal Leadership. He talks about this and says people don't look to the leader in terms of what they do. They look to the leader in terms of the emotional quotient, the EQ.
Yep. And Maya, that's his famous. How about the famous quote from Maya Angelou? People will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you make them feel.
Correct. And so it's all about the emotional energy, emotions, energy. And so, much of the work I do with leaders is not only getting clarity and focus of their personal brand, but it's how to manage their energy around that, the narrative around that. And so where does energy come from? It comes from what you think. It comes from your words, what you say. It comes from how you feel. It comes from your belief systems. And so, when you have leaders that are really clear about their personal vision, their personal purpose, their unique identity, which is unique to everyone. Every single one of us cannot be categorized. And that's why I have a problem with, personality assessments or psychological profiling, which I've done a lot of, by the way. And, these things have a tendency to categorize people into predetermined classifications from somebody else. And so, you do 250 5-point Likert scale questions and you get categorized. Well, that's not the work I do. What I do is I work with individuals and I say, you are a force of one. You're unique on this planet. And what we've got to do is, not create, but help you to discover who you really are, who you came into this planet as, before you started being programmed to be something else. And so, I take them back to their individual identity, their true, higher, authentic identity. And then once we get that starting point, then everything else is just plain sailing, Mike, to be honest. It's extraordinary what happens. I mean, therein lies the transformation, the personal and the business transformation that I look for in leaders, is it really starts with the rediscovery of true higher self of their personal, we call it the personal brand because people understand what that means. But really what it is the true higher self. Your personal vision, your reason for being, your raison d'etre. Why are you here? What are you here to do? Those two kind of primordial questions that people have asked themselves for time immemorial. Who am I and why am I here? And when you go back to that starting point and you get that right and you get clarity and focus around that for the leader, and then you start to transmute that into the organizational brand identity as well, you've got something that is incredibly unique and powerful. And then you just start attaching, the products and the services and the systems and processes to that in harmony. And you've got you've got the energy right, you've got the narrative right. And that's when leaders don't get influenced by the external chaos that's going on in the world right now, which is more than we've seen in our lifetimes ever before. And it's easy to get pulled into that, dragged into that, isn't it? Where it's like, well, everything's doom and gloom, it's all collapsing as we speak. Everything I knew and trusted and I could rely on is going down the gurgler. And so what am I going to do? And so the answer is, will you stop looking externally and you go internal? Gandhi once said, if you cannot go within, you will go without.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I take leaders back inside, and there's another famous quote, Mark Twain, one of my favorite people in the world, who said, the two most important days of your life are when the day you were born and the day you find out why.
Yeah.
And,
I've heard
so
that one. That's a good one.
The why, it's a good one. The why is the vision, your personal vision. And so my work is to help, business leaders get clear about their personal vision, their core purpose, their personal core purpose, their personal unique identity, their true higher self, what I call their source self, what they came into this world as. And then once we get clarity and focus around that, I've got to tell you, Mike, the organizational brand identity work, the business strategies, business planning, the product planning, the communications planning, all comes from that. And it's easy. actually, because it all falls out of that.
Well, if someone is listening to this going, I need a little sip of that fire hydrant, what's the best way that someone can learn more about the BSI method and kind of start to build their vision and their personal brand, Glenn? I know that you've got a lot of great resources on your website.
Well, yeah, I do have a program that I can take people through. It's a program that I developed called the BSI Method 15 years ago, and have been improving ever since. And I fuse that with one-on-one coaching, because what I do is like to work with business leaders direct, one-on-one. And so, where can people contact me? They can actually email me, and so they can email me at Glen, GLEN, just one N, at bsimethod.com. Or they can go to my website, Mike, and that is bsimethod.com. And if they want to connect with me there as well, it's bsimethod.com/connect, which I think you'll have, as a part of the signature of this program anyway.
I will definitely have that in the show notes. And Glenn, it's just real pleasure talking with you. I love your approach to business and how you take the big, broad picture and bring it down into how someone can fine-tune their personal self and brand, which then has ripple effects back into the organization. So thank you for coming on. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
And you, Mike. Thank you very much.